Welcome back to the CD Financial Podcast, CD Financial, where health meets wealth. I'm Marcus C., your host. That man across from me, as always, is Chuck D. Chuck, my man, what's going on? How you doing, brother?
Boom. It's all right here, man. It's all right here.
Giddy up. You're looking good. So, do I detect the touch of a tan, a bit of a tan?
You might
Is
have a
that a
bit of a
thing?
tan going on here, right? And
All
the
right.
and the black eye has faded, so that's cool, right?
That's good news.
Yeah, the little smackdown from Isaac, my firstborn, from the elbow action when he was lowering his elbows. I'm all good from that. Yeah,
My
it's all
my
good.
my man's got some muscle and bulk to him, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Yeah, and he holds so many things in his arms when he walks around all day. It's
Yeah,
he's got some really strong forearms.
he
Yeah.
does.
What are you
Well,
bringing to us today, Marcus?
all right, 5-year rule. So we're going to talk about a 5-year rule. We're going to get into some benefits that may be affected by it. But I thought we'd just start out because sometimes we throw around terms, right? We talk about this stuff before we come on and we get into it. Um, let's define it. What do we need to know first of all about 5-year rule? What is it? What does it mean? And then we can talk about the benefits that are affected by it.
Well, it means that you have to have these benefits for approximately 5 years. I say approximately because one of them, it's it's not exactly nailed down right to 5 years, but the other two benefits they are. So you have to start the benefit and be using it for 5 years prior to your retirement. And if
Okay.
you haven't used it for the 5 years, you may not be able to keep the benefit, or one of those benefits, they're just going to make you wait on it before you really get the true impact of it.
Okay. So we talked about going through three of those, right? So let's just go one, two, three. Let's start with the first one. What's the first benefit affected by this 5-year rule?
Number one, like Austin Powers, number one 5 year rule. It's the least uh, often. What am I trying to say? We rarely have to address it because it's the
Okay.
5 year rule of FEGLI. That is your federal employees group life insurance. Most federal employees either have it or they don't have it. Now it came into the open enrollment. Huh. When was the last time they had an open enrollment? It was some years ago. Yeah, it had to be over. It was way over 5 years ago. They had an
I was going to say it was pre-pandemic, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, they haven't had one since, but you have to keep your FEGLI group life insurance for 5 years prior to your retiring. But
Okay.
what is the wording they use? Immediately preceding retirement, OPM wording that they use. So,
Yeah.
why don't we ask a better question? Do I need FEGLI group life insurance when I go into retirement? How's that?
All right. Well, let's ask that question. Asked and answered. Let's get it answered. Do I need it?
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm talking to somebody who's 58 and a half or so, 59. They said, Charles, do I need to keep this because I'm filling out my retirement paperwork now? Well, here's the deal the options are very, very expensive. So,
Hmm.
very few, unless they're terminally ill, have I seen people take the options, except for option A, let me say. Option A is a flat 10 grand. They tend to take that into retirement, especially if you're closer to 65. And I'll tell you why in a second.
All right.
Um, but the other options are very expensive. The option Bs are extremely expensive, and they'll eat up your retirement check in premiums.
Mm.
However, basic group life insurance, that rounds up to the nearest thousand plus two. That you can keep in retirement, and it's 65. Do you remember what happens to the premium, Marcus, at 65?
It goes down, doesn't it? Zero.
It goes to zero if you do a 75% reduction. So most federal employees keep their basic group life insurance because the premium becomes zero at 65 if they do a 75% reduction. But
Right.
if you're reducing by 75%, how much are you going to end up keeping?
Quarter.
A quarter. You keep
Yeah.
25%, but it's paid up. At 65, it's all paid up. So especially if you're like 59, 60, 62, it's like yesterday somebody was 63. By the time they're going to get paid out till September 30th or December 31st. So by the time they get to January of the following year, they're only going to have like, I think it was 14 months left to pay a
Mm,
premium on their basic group life insurance. And the price will stay the same on the basic group life insurance. If you do a 75% reduction, it will not increase in retirement. And then at 65, it'll start to reduce by 75%, but the premium, it's paid up. It becomes
yeah.
zero. For the rest of your life, you'll have that 25%. And by the way, that 25% doesn't even happen. It doesn't happen immediately at 65. It takes 4 years to happen. Your benefit reduces by 2% a month. 50 months later, it's had its 75% reduction. It's a little confusing, the numbers, but it's like you said, Marcus. You keep a quarter and you've got this benefit paid up for the rest of your life. If you
Right.
made $97,100, it rounds up to the nearest thousand, 98,000 plus 2,000. So you got 100,000 group life insurance benefit, basic, and it's going to shrink down from 100,000 down to
5 grand.
25,000. And it's going to take from 65 to 69 years old, 69 and 2 months old, and then it'll finally be reduced. But if you died anywhere in between, like say anywhere prior to 65, it'll still be in this scenario, this illustration, it'll pay 100,000. Yeah. So it'll work, right? Keep the basic, I say. Well, you say, Charles, I'm single. I don't care that my nephew or my brothers and sisters or my grandniece gets any of this money. I'm
Yeah.
fine. You've paid for it your whole career. You might as well keep the 25%. It's cheaps. I mean, it's really cheap. And then it becomes again, how much are you going to pay at 65, Marcus?
You're going to pay zero.
You're going to pay zero on your 65th birthday,
Yeah.
provided you checked off a 75% reduction. In fact,
You,
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, you mentioned something earlier too about the benefit. Have something to bury you with, right?
Yeah,
So it's
that's right.
not a
Yeah,
burden.
I mean, come on, at least this small life insurance policy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was talking to a single woman in Hawaii just prior to this, and and she says, I already did a 75% reduction. I was like, good, good, good. Because she said, look, I've got my house. My family will get that. I want to spend all my money while living and enjoy myself.
Yeah.
But still she recognized that she probably should do something. And so she said, I got the 75% reduction. I'm like, great. That's a great choice. And it's by far what most federal employees when retiring elect.
Very nice. Okay, so that's benefit number one. Let's go ahead and go. I feel like Dave Letterman. You and I may be the only ones to get that reference, right? You remember the old top 10 list?
No, there's
Uh,
going to be a lot of people that get that reference list.
okay, we're going in the right order though. We're not going in backwards order. So anyway, benefit number two. What's affected by the 5 year rule? Benefit number two.
Okay, so your FEHB, your federal employee health benefit. It's pretty big deal for many federal employees retiring. It's a big deal, right? They
Yeah.
want to have their group life insurance. Your BCBS or whatever else you got, Kaiser, whatever you're accessing, right? GIHA. You want to be able to keep it in retirement and maybe even your spouse. And there, a little caveat there. Don't
Yeah.
forget, in order for them to keep your health insurance, if you die, predecease them, you need to have at least the minimum survivor benefit. So you have to elect 25% survivor benefit. Just a little sidebar. Oh, so FEHB, you have to have had it for 5 years immediately preceding your retirement.
Okay.
Okay. So what that means is, because some folks, just yesterday, somebody was in a training that I was conducting, and she kind of winced a little bit. She goes, "Yeah, I forgot. I've got to get that 5 years." She's young, but she's concerned that they might riff her reduction in force, and then she wouldn't be able to keep it later. If you got laid off and you don't have a pension, or you didn't qualify even for a penalized pension,
Okay.
you have to make your MRA with at least 10 years of service. So that's anywhere from the age of 56 to 57. Then you can turn on your federal employee health benefit and your FEGLI group life. Remember, not only the 5 year rule, but that as well. Now, that doesn't apply to you if you're 50 with 20 years of service and you went out on an immediate pension, then of
Hmm.
course you're going to keep your federal health insurance, your FEHB. And if you did the 75% reduction in your FEGLI instead of canceling it, you'll keep that too. And it won't reduce till your 65th birthday. But I just want to be clear and be very concise
Yeah.
about that. Yes. So you will keep your FEHB if you, with so many people getting a Vera and Rift and laid off, fired, et cetera, et cetera. This I wanted to be very clear about.
All right, man. So we ready? We can move on to the third benefit. Benefit number 3 affected by the 5-year rule. What is it?
Number three, less often ran into and experienced,
Hmm.
but as of late, more so than I care to mention, if you start a Roth TSP and
Hmm.
you go to roll out your Roth TSP to a private Roth IRA, and a lot of people do that because they want to separate the investments. When you have
Right.
Roth TSP and traditional TSP, it's all invested the same way, right? Yeah. And so they roll over their Roth TSP, and the TSP website will say, "Oh, wait a minute, that's taxable." It's like, what are you talking about? That's Roth. And they say, well, we're going to tell you something, Charles. You haven't had that Roth TSP for 5 years. So you need to
Mm.
hold it for 5 years before you can roll it all over. And we're not going to try to snatch some of that money in a 10% penalty or what have you for
Right.
taxes. So they're really, as always, TSP is really trying to grab all the tax money they can. And so
Yeah.
they're going to hold you subject to a 5-year rule under the Roth TSP. And let me tell you something. You did a good thing by getting the Roth TSP. You paid the taxes up front, but you
Yep.
got to be a little patient. So
Yeah.
here's a caveat I'm going to mention, Marcus.
Fair enough.
If you if you start a Roth TSP, make sure at the same time you start a Roth IRA privately. And
Okay.
you want to know why that is?
Please, 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 please.
Because even if there's a zero balance in the Roth IRA privately, the
Uh huh.
5-year clock still ticks on it. So it's kind of cool. You don't have to put any money into it. And the 5-year clock for maturity, so you can withdraw the money tax free, it's already rolling. So you start the Roth TSP. Because a lot of people say, hey, Charles, I'm too old now. Why would I start to put money away into a tax free vehicle? You are. If you folks could see Marcus's eyebrows,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
questioning the same statement. You are
Yep.
never
Never
too
too old.
old to
Yeah.
start a Roth and to start a tax plan. Because if you don't start a tax plan, guess who will start a tax plan for you?
Good old Uncle Sam will start a tax plan
Good old
for
Uncle
you.
Sam. He's going to push you into the RMDs, the
Yeah.
required minimum distributions, and he's going to say, whether you want to spend it or not, he's going to say, take that money out. We need some tax money.
Yeah.
Take out some more money. And it gets higher and higher in its percentage as you get older. So in this case, start the Roth TSP and open up a private Roth IRA. You just go to wherever. I always say schwab.com, but wherever you want to go to, you can
Yeah.
start up and just say, hey, I want to start up a Roth IRA. And you do it all virtually online. Just start plugging in the questions and you're going to get the answers and documents you have to sign.
Yeah. And it's never too late to set aside money. I think we discussed that recently on another episode. Wherever you are in life,
Oh,
you
yeah.
set aside money for different reasons. We all have different goals, is what we want. So it's never too late. Never too late to start.
Yes.
So
So 5-year rules, Marcus. Number
five
one,
years.
the FEGLI group life insurance. You have to
Right.
have had it for 5 years. Most all of you do.
Yeah.
But don't forget the basic, if you do a 75% reduction, it's cheap and then the premium goes away at 65.
Right.
Number two was a federal employees health benefit. You have to
The
have that for 5 years immediately preceding retirement in order to keep it, right? If you defer your retirement and you had it for those 5 years, then you can pick it up at 62 and turn it on, and it's penalty free. And then finally, the Roth TSP, you have to hold it for 5 years. Otherwise, when you go to roll it over to a private Roth IRA, they're
yeah.
going to freeze a portion of it and say, hey, 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 some of this money wasn't in here for 5 years. So um, I believe through a phone call to TSP, not through the website, you can roll over the portion that is non taxable. And remember, when you open a Roth TSP, simultaneously open a Roth IRA privately. That way you have a lot more flexibility. Yeah,
Right. Even if you're not adding money to it right away,
that's right.
open it up.
Yeah, so these are the points applied to your 5-year rules.
Excellent. Good info, man. You ready for a health tip for today?
Yeah, we're ready for a health tip for today.
All
What you
right.
got?
So I got one that kind of goes physical and mental health. And we've talked about being careful with what you feed your mind, right? So the other day, I was scrolling through some social media and I saw this headline and it said
What
two
did
and a
it
half
say, Marcus?
2.5 eggs per week can increase your risk of prostate cancer by 81%.
What if I have 5 eggs a week?
Well, I have 5 eggs a sitting. I mean, I don't eat less than less than 3 eggs is just not. It doesn't do it for me. So I'm
Is that
eating,
true?
four
I
or five.
sometimes I have one, but sometimes I have 2 eggs are very easy with. Depends on what I'm doing for breakfast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good protein, good fat, good protein. So
So
my
the
tip
rumor
is,
is, let me repeat
yeah,
this: two
yeah,
and a half eggs a week increases your risk of prostate cancer by 81%. That's
right.
stupid.
Yes, it is. And it's a headline that's published and it gets a lot of eyes, and that's the idea of it. And that's my health tip is to look past the headlines, because you got to remember that those are just meant to pull your eyes in to click on that NIH article or whatever it is. And once you start getting in there, which I did, I went through the whole thing. They don't mention that a lot of times the people that they're looking at are smokers, heavy drinkers. They live a kind of a whacked out lifestyle that will shorten their lives a lot more than a couple of eggs a week will. And then the other thing is these things are based on what they call FFQs, frequent what's it something
Yes.
questionnaire, right? So the idea is every couple of years they say, well, hey, how many times do you eat eggs a week, and how many times do you eat red meat, and how many times, and it's all the same. You got all these people trying to go back over the last few years trying to remember. I can't remember what I wore to work yesterday. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you remember what you ate for breakfast 3 years ago? It's just it's based on nonsense, and it's meant to get you to be afraid, click on it, and go to that website and try to look it up. And usually at the end of it, they're trying to sell you some sort of supplement anyway, right?
Ah, I
So
hate that stuff. And those stories that you find on, I don't know if it's on Facebook or what it is, and they
yeah,
say, you can tell by the way it's written. So this is what happened. And then this is what occurred. And I was out. This morning I started reading one. I'm like, I'm out. I could
yeah,
tell immediately. I'm like, no, I'm not following you down this silly rabbit hole. It seems like an endless article. Get to the point.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So for your mental health, ignore a lot of these headlines. These crazy. If it sounds crazy, it probably is. And if you want to dig into it, at least look at who's doing the research and what they're actually reporting. Don't just go by the headlines. Eat your eggs, man. I had 5 for breakfast this morning. I'll have 4 for breakfast tomorrow. It's going
Well,
to
I mean,
happen.
the experts are constantly changing their advice, right? First, they said, don't drink wine, it's bad for your heart. Stay
Right.
away from olive oil, it's going to clog your arteries. Then they come back years later. I remember this was when I was in my early 20s. And
Yeah.
I remember Bob Castaldo, he's one of my dad's best friends. And he goes, Charlie, my boy, it's so ridiculous. They told us not to eat olive oil and drink red wine. Now they tell us olive oil is good for your health and red wine is too. It's be moderate, right? And
Yeah.
use good judgment. If you
Yeah.
drank 6 glasses of red wine for dinner every night, you're probably a drunk, right? But yeah, if you have a
That's
glass
a
of red
bottle and a
wine,
half of wine. That's a lot.
yeah, but if you have a glass of red wine with your meal,
Yeah.
that's good for you, right? Yeah. So I mean, they found centenarians in Sardinia of all places. What a surprise in Italy. And
Yeah.
and these guys that were living past 100 years old and ladies, they were drinking a couple glasses of wine every day, right? Taking a
Yeah.
walk, enjoying life,
Yep.
socializing with their neighbors. So yeah, keep in mind moderation is a big key
Yeah.
in what Marcus said too. Try to avoid the negative headlines and
Yeah.
use the power of reason and good judgment and wisdom there. You've
It
got it. Just
it's
retrain,
amazing
you got it. Yeah.
what good old common sense will do for you, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
Common
need to buy
sense.
into all the nonsense. Eat
Yeah.
your egg. Eat your
Eat your
eggs, Vic.
eggs. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I'm gonna get my father to buy those chickens back again, those laying hens. You want a
Oh man,
good
with the egg prices these days, I'm gonna invest
hey
in some chicken
now.
myself, buddy. I'll be
Hey
wearing gold
now.
chains paid for with chicken eggs next week. So
It's crazy, isn't it? Okay.
yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you very much for your time. As always, we appreciate you all tuning in. There's a link below. We recommend you click on that. You can always make an appointment, right? We can set up something, have that 15-minute consultation for free, get some good information there. And as always, subscribe to the videos. We try to keep these things fresh and up to date, and they'll come straight to you. So thank you for joining us on CD Financial Podcast, CD Financial, where health meets wealth. I'm Marcus E. That man is Chuck D. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, we sure do. Oh, and if you need anything answered, text us because our office line doesn't receive texts. Technology is awesome. Text your first and last name and your email to 949-359-5100. That's 359-5100. Your name and your email, and we'll reach out to you. We'll schedule you a 15-minute phone call. It's complimentary. Talk to you all real soon.
Excellent stuff. Be good, everybody.
CD Financial, where health meets wealth.